You will not believe what former Steelers offensive coordinator Bruce Arians said about this year's Steelers offense on the Pat McAfee Show this week. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today, we're going to be covering the latest news and rumors surrounding the black and gold. But before we get into the content today, and I tell you what Bruce had to say about Artie Smith, Aaron Rodgers, and the Steelers offense, make sure you click that subscribe button and join the over 100,000 Steelers fans that have now clicked that subscribe button and joined the Steelers Talk family. We are the largest individually run Steelers news program anywhere on the YouTube platform. We are the first individually run Steelers news program to hit 100,000 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for all of your support. But guys, the reason why we have over 100,000 subscribers, it's not by accident. It's because we give you guys daily Steelers videos that are free, informative, and entertaining. Also, we have breaking news coverage every time the Steelers make a big move, and with the trade deadline coming up, guys, you're not going to want to not be subscribed because we're going to be going live whenever the con artist makes a big trade. We also go live at least twice a week, including for every single Steelers game that they play this year with our live watch parties, where we react to the game together. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. It's 100% free to join the channel and join the over 100,000 plus that have already joined the Steelers Talk family. All right, so now let's talk about Bruce Arians, former Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's starting to kind of come on the bandwagon here for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. As he went on the Pat McAfee Show earlier this week and says that Artie Smith, the coordinator for here in Pittsburgh now, is doing a quote-unquote hell of a job coordinating this team. This is what Bruce had to say on the Pat McAfee Show earlier this week. The Steelers are growing on me. I didn't like them that much early in the year, but I really like Artie Smith and what he's doing offensively. I think he's doing a hell of a job. They should run away with that division right now. Artie Smith, to me, has always been one of the best running coordinators in the league. Now, Arians was very complimentary of what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing right now, but he didn't have all praise for the Steelers offense at this point. He did point out some of the very real weaknesses and downsides to the Steelers offense right now. This is what Bruce had to say. Now, drop back and pass, not so fast. I don't think they can protect. It's a first and second down offense, and they're doing a good job staying ahead of the chains. Keep the third down short and get the ball out of Aaron's hand quick. So I think Bruce does a really good job here analyzing the Steelers offense, what they're doing well, what kind of their style of play is, but also maybe what their weakness is. And I think what the Steelers have been doing a really good job of lately is that they've been staying ahead of the sticks. They've been running the football effectively. They've been not getting into too many third down and longs because, plain simply, guys, the Steelers' strength is not drop back pass. I don't think they have the pure pass protection and available to be able to play that kind of offense, and frankly, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the mobility to escape pressure when those first couple reads are not there in a true drop-back passing environment. Plus, the Steelers receivers right now, especially with Calvin Austin III out of the lineup, there's no one really out there that can consistently beat man coverage, especially when they're playing too high man, where you've got two guys, two safeties deep down the field. It's just not an offense that's built to run that kind of style, and Bruce is 100% right about that, but he's also right that the Steelers are playing extremely efficiently right now, and I think that, the weaknesses that the Steelers have shown as a drop-back passing offense to this point and how they're kind of not doing that at this point is exactly why the Pittsburgh Steelers could use another wide receiver. Somebody, even when Calvin Austin III gets back, get this offense another weapon that can separate versus man coverage and give yourself a better shot on those third and long situations. And maybe hopefully Broderick Jones in this offensive line can continue to gel, get better protecting Aaron Rodgers throughout the season, and then you can do more true drop-back passing stuff and make this offense even more diverse than it already is. And the thing is with the Pittsburgh Steelers, guys, is I believe this team with this offense and this style of offense can win a lot of games, all right? I think they can get, once again, up to double-digit wins this year and then some. I think they can win the division with this style of offense because we went into this season, guys, what did we say about this team? Their best chance at winning a Super Bowl this year and competing for a Super Bowl is to have an excellent defense with a good enough offense that doesn't turn the football over and then a team that can run the ball. We've seen that formula play out over the last 2 weeks. Now, obviously, Minnesota, Cleveland, I don't think either of those teams are Super Bowl caliber teams, and we're going to have to see how the Steelers play against the Green Bay Packers, against the Indianapolis Colts, against the Buffalo Bills to really get a gauge as to just how good this Steelers team is. But the defense is starting to get into this area where they're looking really, really good. If they keep that trajectory and this Steelers offense can continue to play efficiently, stay ahead of the sticks, run the football effectively, and then not turn the football over and stay really efficient in the red zone, that's another big part of this. I think the Steelers have a team that could, in theory, go on a run in January and can beat any other team in the National Football League on any given Sunday. Another analyst in the NFL space that also is very impressed with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is Dan Orlovsky. And guys, Orlovsky's been a big critic of the Steelers offense for a very long time, so this kind of switch up from Orlovsky is definitely notable. This is what Orlovsky had to say on the Pat Mcafee show this week regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. There's no question the Steelers know who they are, their identity, what they should and should not do. The way I kind of categorize their offense after a couple of weeks now is it's creatively cautious. That's meant as a positive and a compliment. Here's the way I view it right now. They started this 6 offensive line package where there's 6 offensive linemen on the field, and sometimes there's 1 tight end and sometimes there's 2 tight ends. Versus the Browns, they had 6 different plays out of that 6 offensive line package. I love when teams take simple things and they make them look complicated to the defense. So now the Steelers are doing things from an offensive perspective that are simple for them, but it's complicated for the defense. Pittsburgh's pass game is really one of 2 things. It's either a quick game, like right now it's happening, and if you play zone, Aaron's finding a completion, and if you play man, it's a one-on-one, or they're moving the pocket. I think it's really, really, really smart offensive football in Pittsburgh right now. Very impressed. And like Bruce Arians, guys, like I mentioned, Dan has not always been, just like a Steelers homer, always, praising the Pittsburgh Steelers and their offense. Last year, he was very critical of the Steelers, and he correctly predicted that their offensive model under Russell Wilson last year was not a sustainable model for offensive success against playoff caliber teams. This is what Orlovsky had to say also on the McAfee show this week. Last year, the Steelers had some success on offense, and you guys remember me saying it ain't good enough on offense. It's not going to beat teams that actually matter. I feel differently about this group. I watched this offense for the past 3 weeks, and I go, this offense can be good enough to beat a Buffalo, a Kansas City, and Indy. So that is a big shift in kind of narrative from Mr. Dan Orlovsky here. And once again, I agree with the analysis here this time from Dan. And, I think he's right on the money that Artie Smith really understands the strengths and weaknesses of this Steelers team. And they're doing a really good job at limiting the weaknesses while accentuating the strengths and keeping things simple for the Steelers offense while making it very difficult and very complicated for the defenses that have to go up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you guys have been following Artie Smith's kind of coaching philosophy as a play caller, going back to Tennessee, I mean, they didn't run a whole lot of creative stuff in Tennessee. It was a lot of outside zone. It was a lot of stick. It was a lot of quick game concepts with Ryan Tannehill. It was a lot of under center play action. A lot of the stuff you're seeing in Pittsburgh right now, but it worked in Tennessee. He overachieved with this style of offense in Atlanta despite some really bad quarterback play. And now I would say he's overachieving here in Pittsburgh, at least this season. And his philosophy, guys, is that we're not going to run anything crazy schematically. We're not going to be a Shanahan-level offense or a Kevin O'Connell offense or Sean McVay or Matt LaFleur or any of these guys that run like a very creative offense. Ben Johnson is another guy that does that. We're going to run what we run really, really well, and we're going to keep things simple for our offense so that our guys can execute at a high level, but we're going to kind of package a bunch of different plays from the same formation so the defense has no idea what we're running on any given play. And that's exactly what we're seeing from the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Dan pointed it out in his quote. I mean, you have 6 different plays on 17 snaps from that jumbo personnel look with Spencer Anderson and Darnell Washington in there. And the result is the defense just has no idea what's coming. It could be a pass. It could be a run. It could be a play action pass. Like, they can do a lot of different things, and they can marry concepts together to be able to stay on script and do the things you need to do to stay on schedule and get touchdowns and move the football effectively. And my take on the whole situation right now, guys, is that Pittsburgh's offense does have its limitations. If this team takes penalties, if they take negative yardage, if they start taking sacks and they get into these 3rd and long situations, we've seen it throughout the season. They don't have necessarily the pass protection or the receiving weapons to be able to kind of get first downs in those kinds of situations. But what they do well is that they have Aaron Rodgers, one of the most intelligent quarterbacks in the league. He gets the ball out fast. He keeps the ball moving. He keeps taking a profit. They keep staying ahead of the chains. They keep moving those chains, and then they get into the red zone eventually, and then they score touchdowns because they've got a size advantage. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing from the philosophy that Artie Smith is bringing here to Pittsburgh. It's not flashy, all right, but it's definitely effective at this point. And as long as it keeps staying effective, guys, even though the Steelers certainly have their limitations, which could maybe be helped by trading for a wide receiver, wink, wink, Omar Khan, I certainly think that this offense has what it takes, especially if the Steelers defense can continue to play on the trajectory that they're playing at, to be a very effective offense this season here in Pittsburgh. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Is Pittsburgh's offensive success sustainable long-term versus playoff caliber teams? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at PrizePicks. And while I'm telling you about our sponsor, simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at PrizePicks. And you and I, we make decisions every single day, right? But not all those decisions get you paid. But on PrizePicks, which is an app that you guys can download on your phone for free today, your correct decisions can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Football season is now in full swing, and you better believe I'll be getting my PrizePicks lineups in all season long. PrizePicks is super simple to play. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. PrizePicks also puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. PrizePicks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And a new feature from PrizePicks that I absolutely love is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks will not count that as a loss. So for my PrizePicks lineup for Thursday Night Football this week, I'm taking the more on DK Metcalf receiving yards, the more on rushing yards for Jaylen Warren, and the more on interceptions for Joe Flacco. So if you guys want to get a play-in, put in a lineup on the PrizePicks app for today. Right now, when you download the app today, and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So I want to finish up today's show by kind of addressing two kind of things I've been seeing on Steelers Twitter and about the Pittsburgh Steelers pass rush, all right? Because right now you got TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, and Alex Highsmith all healthy right now. That's obviously fantastic. They're doing a great job getting to the quarterback. But there's two things that I'm kind of taking issue with right now that I want to address on the show. The first one is kind of not from Steelers fans. It's from Browns fans and from some just general NFL accounts, which is that Myles Garrett, quote-unquote, gets more attention than TJ Watt and therefore is the better player because of that, even though TJ Watt has outpaced Myles Garrett in pretty much every single statistical category since Garrett has entered the league, okay? I think that this is just untrue based on the numbers. You guys can take a look at the chip, double team, and triple team percentage of Myles Garrett and TJ Watt this season. And you guys can see it's pretty darn comparable, all right? TJ gets chipped 10% more than Myles. Now, Myles does get double teamed slightly more than TJ Watt does, but then TJ actually has been getting triple teamed more than Myles Garrett this season, all right? So what those numbers tell you guys is that TJ Watt is very much in the ballpark in terms of how much opposing offenses are respecting his skill set in terms of the amount of help that they are sending in their direction, all right? So this narrative that Myles Garrett is better because, he gets more double and triple team help, it's just not borne out by the facts and by the numbers and the statistics. And you guys can see here, even in the double team or pure triple team numbers, Myles Garrett gets purely doubled or tripled about 70% of the time, and TJ Watt is right in that same ballpark. And when you include the chip blocks that TJ Watt gets, you could even make an argument that TJ gets even more attention than Myles Garrett in terms of, the amount of his snaps where he is getting contacted by 4 hands, all right? It's like almost 100% of the time TJ Watt is getting contacted by at least 2 players on that play, and that is very comparable to Myles Garrett. So that's just not an excuse to say, well, Myles Garrett has worse stats than TJ Watt, but he gets double team more. It's just like, I mean, that's technically true, but TJ Watt sees just about as much help given from opposing offenses as Myles does, so it's not really that much of a talking point in my opinion. But at the end of the day, guys, both of these guys are elite. I think that, when you look at Myles Garrett and you look at TJ Watt, they're both elite players. They're both tier 1 level guys that are frankly worth the money, in my opinion, that they got this offseason. And, I think that, there's a lot of fights to be had on X and Twitter and all these different things, but this is one where I think we can all agree that both of these players are really freaking good. Now, the second topic when it comes to the Steelers pass rush that I want to talk about is this discussion that I've been hearing on Twitter quite recently, which is surrounding Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig. And, people talk about, we need to start Nick Herbig over Alex Highsmith, or we need to keep Alex Highsmith over Nick Herbig. And what I don't like about this discussion, guys, is that kind of the assumption is, okay, we have to play one of them and then we have to bench the other one. It's like, no, man. Pittsburgh's three-headed monster at the edge rusher position is a major asset for this team, and I cannot stress this enough. All three of these guys are going to play starter-level snaps, all right? Nick Herbig had the highest amount of snaps compared to either TJ Watt or Alex Highsmith versus the Browns. Now, they rested Watt on the final drive of the game. They did a little bit of that with Highsmith as well, so that's why Herbig was able to get to 61% snap share. But the reality of the situation, guys, is that the Steelers are going to rotate these guys in because it keeps them fresh, and then also, it doesn't give opposing offenses a break. I think people kind of, especially because they play Madden and you have to set a depth chart in every single play, you have your starting 2 outside linebackers, right? So people, because they're so Madden-brained, they think, okay, well, we have to bench either Nick Herbig or Alex Highsmith. Which one do we bench? And it's like, no, you play all three. That's what you do, all right? You rotate these guys in, and there's 2 huge benefits to having 3 starter quality edge rushers, and frankly, number 1 caliber edge rushers, right? The first benefit is that Pittsburgh can keep a healthy rotation when everybody's in there, all right? That keeps guys fresh throughout the season, and it also keeps them fresh throughout the course of a game, all right? So opposing offenses do not have a break versus this elite edge rush trio. Then also, if somebody gets injured, the Steelers still have an elite edge duo, all right? So, when Alex Highsmith goes down, you can trust Nick Herbig to go in there and still produce at a high level. If Nick Herbig gets injured, just like he was at the beginning of the season, you can expect Alex Highsmith to play at a high level. If TJ Watt goes down, you would hope that Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig would be able to hold down the fort, all right? Having these 3 guys is extremely important to the Steelers' hopes for winning a Super Bowl because, as we talked about with the offense earlier in this show, you're not really expecting the offense to score 30-plus points a game. You're expecting them to be competent, which means to win a Super Bowl, you need this defense to be special. And what makes this defense special, guys, is their edge rusher trio. So I keep hearing people talking about trading Alex Highsmith, all this stuff, but it's like, okay, you trade Highsmith, and then TJ Watt gets injured. What then? We're going to start Jack Sawyer in this defense? It's like, I like Jack Sawyer as a 4th edge rusher, but it's nice to have that injury insurance, man. It really is. Now, he might be saying at home, I can already hear you guys typing in the comments section, but Jack, we got to pay Nick Herbig next offseason, so we might as well trade Alex Highsmith for a draft pick while we still can. And my response to that, guys, is that, that is a future problem. That is not a now problem, all right? Right now, you have all 3 under contract within the realm of the cap limits, and, that's not going to change over the course of the season. So with the Steelers in a win-now posture, trying to win a Super Bowl this year, trading away Alex Highsmith doesn't help them accomplish their short-term goals. All right, now if the season was over and they had no chance of winning a Super Bowl, then okay, maybe you think about trading Alex Highsmith, because you're right. You do have to pay Nick Herbig down the road. But, I think there's a very specific way you can handle this situation without just trading Alex Highsmith in a win-now season. All right, this is how I would handle it, guys. You pay Nick Herbig his extension next offseason, but you don't have the money for that, or at least a large chunk of it, kick in until the following season, okay? Because Herbig still has a full year left on his rookie contract, so you don't really mess with that all too much. You will add a little bit on that with the signing bonus, but you can keep that contract relatively manageable from a financial standpoint, and you can still pay Alex Highsmith his current figure next year. So you can keep TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig under contract if you want to for a whole nother season, all right? But I do think eventually, if you're going to be paying Nick Herbig a bunch of money, and don't get it twisted, he's going to be making a lot of money on his next deal, eventually it does make sense to trade Alex Highsmith for a high draft pick. Ideally, you probably trade him away 2 off seasons from now because he's got 2 years left on his deal after this season. So you have Watt, Highsmith, and Herbig as your 3-headed monster for the next 2 seasons, okay? And then that next offseason, you unload Alex Highsmith for hopefully a high draft pick at that point, all right, while he's under the final year of his deal. I think that's the best way to handle this situation. But as for this season, like I talked about, guys, this is a win-now season for the Steelers, and this edge rusher trio is the best thing about this team. You trade Alex Highsmith, and you kind of lose something that makes this team truly special and unique in terms of a defensive perspective. All right, like I talked about, you want to have that 3-headed monster at edge rusher. They're going to be playing these guys all starter-level snaps. All right, they're not going to take Nick Herbig off the field and only play him 10% of the time. He's going to play 40 to 50% of the snaps throughout this season, guys. They're going to be rotating him in. So it just doesn't make sense to me to trade Alex Highsmith at this point, guys, and I think it's time we stop having that discussion. So let me know down there in the comments section, should the Pittsburgh Steelers keep Alex Highsmith this year? Type T for trade or K for keep. For me, I'm keeping him. All right, I really like this edge rusher trio. It's not something I'm willing to sacrifice, even to get a receiver at this point. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. We'll have more coverage for you guys tomorrow here on Steelers Talk. And until then, here we go, Steelers.